Hi, I want to thank you for taking a moment to watch this video. It's a PowerPoint presentation that I shared with the leadership team in January at the request of our District Governor, Pete Moyer. We both thought that you would find it helpful too. If you're a strong club and you're doing well, it will be helpful as a review. If you're a struggling club and you need help, I hope this will provide some support. We wanted to talk a little bit about keeping clubs viable. And we wanted to talk about planting a seed for stronger clubs as we find ourselves 2/3 of the way through the year with 4 months remaining. Some of our clubs are doing quite well, and that's good to see. But some clubs need help, and we're here for that reason. As we want to take a look at why clubs succeed, it's helpful to flip the coin over and ask ourselves, why do clubs fail? And there are a number of points we can discuss. First of all, they fail to remember their mission. We have fun in Toastmasters clubs, and having fun is the way we do, it's the how we do things, but the what we do is sometimes we lose track of. Sometimes clubs fail because they conduct lackluster meetings. It's not an easy thing to have well-planned, well-orchestrated meetings every time, but with a few techniques and a few suggestions, it can happen. And when we have great meetings, we have good attendance and we attract new members. Sometimes clubs experience economic downturns, particularly company clubs, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Sometimes these same clubs that are in corporate locations have what we call closed clubs, where you have to be an employee of that organization. And finally, and this is a point I'll probably hammer on a little bit more towards the end, clubs don't meet often enough. With respect to remembering why we're in business, it is important to read the mission statement of the club at every meeting. Just as it's important to remind the members why we do what we do, it's also important to read in the Toastmasters promise with every new member in an induction ceremony. Now, reading the mission statement at every meeting may seem a little bit rote and routine. And sometimes it becomes so routine and so mechanical that we might think that it loses meaning. You'd be surprised at how internalizing that at every opportunity can make a difference in the hearts and the minds of your members. And when we hold an induction ceremony, it is important that the new member realize that this is an organization where we learn by doing, and that we have a shared responsibility to one another. Another way we can remember our mission is to present successful club modules at meetings. Some of these include the Toastmasters Education Program, the Distinguished Club Program, and thankfully these modules are available online this year at no charge. Just as another caveat, they make great backup speeches, and if every club leader has one of these modules prepared to present, you can be ready at every meeting if you have a speaker who doesn't show. Another reason that clubs fail is that they conduct lackluster meetings. And you'll see there my strong admonition to assign roles. Stop waiting for volunteers. Start contacting people individually and assign them a role. You know, every member joins the organization by filling out an application form. They sign their name right next to the Toastmasters promise. And in the Toastmasters promise, it says to prepare for assigned roles. Let's take every member at their word. They've joined an organization by doing. They're planning to do when they come to the meetings. They just need someone to lead. So let's start assigning roles. And we can do that 6 to 8 meetings in advance. Get up early on a Saturday morning over a cup of coffee before the family wakes up. And then you only have to work from exceptions and not feel like you're working under the windmill every time a meeting comes around. Engage new members right away. And the Toastmasters documentation suggests that we have them give a table topic speech at the very next meeting. I personally have found that it works better to assign them minor roles like counter and grammarian and timekeeper as a way of engaging them and having their names on the agenda. This helps with new member assimilation. But the principle is the same. Engage new members right away. Now, sometimes companies experience economic downturns, and this really can't be helped. Sometimes it not only takes away members from our club, it can take away some key members from our club as well. I've seen this happen in the past. And that's compounded even more when you have what we call a closed club. And that's where you have to be an employee of that organization to be a member of the club. Now, sometimes that can't be helped. If you're on a military base, for example, and you have a secure facility. But sometimes the reason companies have closed clubs is because they don't want the inconvenience of having to go to the front desk and sign the member in and bring them to the meeting and escort them back. Sometimes there are issues with dues collections if it's a company-paid club. Well, if that happens, you might want to consider being an open club and allowing members who aren't members of your company to the extent that that's possible. You can find a way to collect dues differently from the non-company members and escort them to and from the reception desk, as I say, unless it's a secure military facility or something like that. But the other thing I've found is if we're doing all the right things to begin with, even when we have an economic downturn, we'll be in better position to survive. Finally, one of the reasons that clubs fail is they don't meet often enough. In a survey of our district, I've noticed that some clubs meet only monthly, and some clubs meet twice a month, and some clubs have schedules that are difficult to remember. You'll see here the leadership track, and by way of review, we look at the bottom path there, and we see that to earn a Competent Communicator Award, a member has to complete 10 speeches, and the same with each of the advanced milestones as well. How often a member can get through that path is a function of how frequently the club meets. Anecdotally, I can tell you about a member who joined a club that met twice a month. It took her 32 months to complete a CC. By contrast, when she relocated to another district and joined another club that met weekly, she was within reach of 3 educational awards in only 6 months. Another case study, a member who started in a club that met weekly finished a CC in only 11 months. Moving to a club that met twice a month, after getting his DTM, it took him 54 months to earn 2 CCs. Statistics show that when we move through the program more quickly, we have a better probability of retaining members. Members stay in the club when they make progress. They're more likely to leave the club when they don't. So frequency of meetings definitely has an impact on member retention. There you see the math. If you have 3 speeches per meeting and you meet twice monthly, you have 3.6 speeches per year on average per member, taking almost 3 years to earn an award. If you meet weekly and only have 2 speeches per meeting with shorter meetings, that's 100 speaking opportunities per year, and you lower the time frame from 3 years to 2 years to earn an educational award. Here we're talking about the average. In any normally distributed bell curve, you're going to have members that fall below the average, those that fall above the average and meet more quickly. But I think you can see the impact here. I talk about the emotional factor, and I can't really prove this with numbers and statistics, but it's been my experience that there's a certain energy we derive from being at meetings. We see one another, we encourage one another, and we receive that emotional high, whatever you want to call it. Maybe it's focus, maybe it's enthusiasm. Now, the longer we're away, the more time we give that feeling or that experience to them. You can see on this slide here, we have a situation where we meet twice weekly. And when someone misses a meeting, it's a month between meetings for them. Well, on this slide, however, we have an experience where people meet weekly. And if they miss a meeting, then they can come the very next week and make up that time. I won't show you what happens if you meet monthly and miss a meeting there, because the graph goes off the page, but I think you get the point. Now, here are some testimonials from people in clubs that do meet weekly, and I won't read the entire testimonial for you. I'm happy to send you the PowerPoint if you'd like a copy of it, but the key phrase here is that this individual says, "I think weekly meetings are part of the glue that holds the club together." And I would agree with that. On this next testimonial, someone writes, and this is actually a past international director, "Weekly clubs do have a better opportunity for success and survival." And a third comment from actually the vice president of education of my home club, where he says the actual amount of planning that any individual has to do is minor. And I would agree with him. As a member of a club who's just gone from meeting twice monthly to meeting weekly, the effort or additional effort really is incremental at most. What I want you to do as you consider this idea of meeting weekly is consider it an opportunity and not an obligation. Clubs that meet twice as often have twice as many opportunities to speak and fill other roles. It means you're going to make faster progress not only in your speaking track, but also in the leadership track, C&L manuals as well. The clubs that meet weekly have twice as many opportunities for guests to visit and join. Clubs that meet weekly, well, as I said earlier, it's easy to remember when the meeting is, and less likely for the meetings to skip someone's mind. Here's one I think is very important. Everyone misses a meeting now and then. Gives you an opportunity to get back sooner. And we also have seen in the past where members join more than one club so they'd have more speaking opportunities. Here, you have twice as many opportunities if you're not already meeting weekly, and you don't pay any additional dues because the cost of membership in a club is the same regardless of how often you meet. So in a sense, you get twice the value for your dues. If you have members who are reluctant to go to weekly meetings, you might just remind them. They can still come only twice a month if that's what they prefer to do. Another reason for meeting weekly, and I always talk about if we're going to be Toastmasters, we should do things the Toastmasters way. And meeting weekly is, in fact, the Toastmasters way. This is right out of the Club Leadership Handbook, where it talks about extra meetings, but it begins by saying that clubs should meet weekly to allow the most speaking opportunities for members. You've seen this famous quote before, I'm sure. Albert Einstein says that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results each time. I always tell clubs that if your club has more than 20 members, if you're enjoying showcase meetings every time you meet, if your club is a pace setter in the Distinguished Club program, then by all means, keep doing whatever you're doing. You may want to even bottle it for the benefits of the rest of us. But on the other hand, if you're not seeing the desired results, while it can be difficult to change familiar practices, a few healthy changes just might mean a winning recipe for success. I hope you'll consider some of these points. Don't do it for me. Don't do it for the district. Do it for your club and for your members. And we're here to help you. So, if you need that help, if you've got any questions about how to implement any of these changes so that it doesn't become a science project or a second full-time job, by all means reach out. Speak to any member of the leadership team or feel free to contact me. You can reach me at my email address, pdg@district66.org.